Good rising, family. We're just going to continue because this is just pretty much a continuance from the last video. Okay, just going to be giving some more information and more understanding from the last video from the Irish wisdom. This is going to be going to some other books. This is going to pretty much just give us more understanding and back up the things that were said in the other video. Okay, because a lot of these other books are saying the same things. They're repeating a lot of the same things. You're going to hear about how the actual Iberno-Celtics were actually all over Europe. And there's actually proof that it was all over Europe. And see, they try to make it sound as if, the Celts got their language from the Latin, but it was actually the total opposite. The Celtic language was before the Latin. But as they always do, they try to hide and cover up the original and then put themselves in, interject themselves as if they were always here and they were always the original inhabitants of all these lands. But we know that that's not the truth. And these books here are going to actually show you that as well. So I'm going to start right here in the middle. We have now seen every nation in Europe looking up to the Celtic as their mother tongue. You see that right there? Every nation in Europe looking up to the Celtic as their mother tongue. You're not going to hear about this anywhere else. They hide all this information. It remains to account for that similarity of manners and customs, as well as affinity of language, which subsisted between the most northern Celts and the eastern nations. This has been consistently or learnedly handled by that ingenious antiquary Dr. Borlas, whose words we shall quote from his historical and monumental antiquities of the county of Cornwall. Now, this makes sense that these people have the same similarity of manners and customs. Why is that? Because remember, all these different people, all the people of the world came to Enoch and asked him to rule over them. They also came to Solomon because these men were very wise and connected to the Most High. They came to Solomon and wanted him to rule over them as well. So if you got the whole world following certain customs and manners, who else would they have been following? Right? So you got two people here who are ruling vast areas. And if they were ruling these vast areas, then it would make sense then that they would be, speaking some of the same languages and would be able to communicate with each other. And they would actually have some of the similar customs and manners. And the language is telling on them. They try to make it sound like this is all happening in the so-called Middle East. But all these different areas have all these different lands and words and places of interest. These places go back to the Celtic language. Just like in the last video, talking about how these words, like Phoenician, was actually an Irish word. Tyre, Sidon, Irish words. Rome, Irish words. The Tiber River, Irish words. See, that's how the Most High left all these crumbs out there for us to find and be able to put two and two together. Start to be, you got the Phoenicians who were a seafaring race. They made them over here in these deserts over here in Syria. But it would make much more sense that it was on an island where you had all the things that you need. You need the art harbors and all. You see that now it's all starting to come together. Now you're starting to see why it was so important for us not to be able to read, not to be able to get access to these books, not to get this information, because the Most High is going to give us the spirit to be able to hear this information and not just discount it. Like most, that's not in our history books. That's not what they taught us. So therefore, I'm not going to listen to it. But see, us, when we realize that they lie about everything, then we're open to listen to many different things and then see how the spirit works with us, how the spirit's going to open up our minds to get this understanding. Let's continue. If it does sufficiently appear that the resemblance betwixt the Celts and the Eastern nations in language, manners, monuments, and opinions is no forced, distant, and imaginary, but such a real and close resemblance of usually proceeds, as usually proceeds either from descent or intimacy and converse. then it will manifestly within the rules of reason to conclude either that both these people had been in former ages parts of one community or all along maintained such an open commerce with each other as necessary to produce a strict uniformity in those general national points. Okay, so they're saying that these people were one community. Now think about that. Remember now, everybody's coming together with Enoch. Hey, we want you to rule over us. We want you to lead us. You guys have heard about that before. But see, now you understand why we don't accept the book of Enoch. We don't want you guys to read the book of Enoch. Because then you might realize that, hey, Enoch was ruling the world. People were listening to Enoch. And then you read something like this and it says, that's kind of weird because it says that these people were in former ages were part of one community. Then these people knew about how things prospered when Enoch was running things. And they say, hey, we want Solomon to run things because we want things to prosper as well. Because again, when the righteous are in rulership, the world is great. The people are great. The people are happy. The world is happy. Everything is in balance. Things are working as they should be because the righteous are in control. You see now what happens when the wicked are in rulership. Look at, can things get any worse now? And now you're seeing the earthly mother, now bringing destruction worldwide because the wicked have ran the earth into the ground, have not cared about the animals, the air, the water, the earth, none of it. And now the earth is fighting back. So they're saying they must have had some, they must have had some commerce, open commerce. This must be why because they're all going back and forth and they're spending money and everything else. It has to go back to commerce, but we're going to find out about that right now. So either that both these people had been in former ages parts of one community, and I get the whole part of the eastern part of the world over there being one community. So it hasn't always been all broken up like it is now. Okay, part of one, or all along maintain such an open commerce with each other as is necessary to produce a strict uniformity in those general national points. But as no such open commerce appears to have been between the Celts and the eastern countries, notorious enough to influence such multitudes of people to a resemblance of language, manners, monuments, and opinions, that resemblance cannot be accounted for, but by concluding them to have been once one and the same people. And when this people separated into many nations and became dispersed into many countries, each portion carried that religion, those customs, opinions, and language with them. Okay, which they had when being united in a much larger, mass. They dwelt in one country. Okay, so the borders aren't like the borders are now. So like I said, so it's talking about these people all being one people, one country, doing the same things. And we do have evidence of that actually happening in the world, actually asking for Solomon and Enoch to rule over them. Because they knew, like I said, once these certain righteous men are in control, that things are going to work as they should be. And that's what's been hidden from the world. They think that, they don't have any other options, that this is all that there is, because they haven't been exposed to this history. Next book we're going to get into right now, Druidism, by Dudley Wright. Now, we keep hearing people talking about how, they were, the Druids were, worshiping trees and they were all into all these different gods and this and that. That's not true. Again, consider the source. Who's telling you that? You're hearing that from the Romans. They wanted to paint them as pagans and paint them as, killing people and sacrificing people and everything else. That's what they've been wanting to do. Check out the bottom. Like Mithraism, however, Druidism is a distinctive institution. Eventually was swept from off the face of the earth. We're going to see exactly who's the ones that swept it off the face of the earth. It was important to certain people to sweep this off the face of the earth because they were not compatible. The Church of Mahan and the Church of the Most High cannot coexist. So once the priests of Mahan got the power, got the dominion, their main aim would be to get rid of the church of the Most High, so they could have complete authority, a complete autonomy to do whatever it is that they wanted to do, because it was their time to rule. Okay, so again, like Mithraism, however, Druidism is a distinctive institution, eventually was swept from off the face of the earth. But the fact must not be overlooked when speaking of the supplanting of Druidism by Christianity, that the Druids held many of the tenets inculcated in Christianity and the practices and customs of the Christians. The doctrine of the immortality of the soul, the belief in miracles, the doctrine of reincarnation, all in those days articles of the Christian faith, had already been imparted to the Britons by their own priests. They were also no strangers to the rite of baptism, which every Christian neophyte had to undergo. Unhappily, Druidism has left behind no literature. Yeah, right. No art, existing monuments claim to be Druidical, offered no clue to the social habits of the people, and proved nothing beyond the fact. Okay, now the thing is that we know that they took those papers, we know they took those records, and they hid them. They hid them so that then they can make up their own story. Has this happened? Did this happen again? Yes, it did. When they came over to the Americas. Oh, they got all this information over here, but they didn't write anything down. We don't have any papers of theirs. We don't have anything. But we were busy making mountains of their documents and burning them all. But they didn't have anything. So they wanted to say they destroyed all of the records so they can come up with their own narrative. That's exactly what they've been doing this entire time. But the Most High is now giving us back our knowledge and understanding, giving us back our ability to sift through the lies. He made them keep certain names of certain things, certain places, so that we would get this knowledge and understanding later on, to realize that, yeah, nope, that land was ours. That land was ours. Those are our customs. These are the things that we used to do. This is all part of that Psalms 83 conglomerate when they all came together against us and are still together against us even till today. But now the Most High is bringing this understanding to us so that we can be a light to our people as well as to the other Gentiles that are going to be called here at the end. Now they're going to realize that the Gentiles did submit to the Most High's chosen people, and they thrived, and they were happy, and the earth was happy. That there is an alternative to this beast kingdom. There is an alternative to this matrix. It's our Father, the Most High. He's setting up the world to run the way He intended it in the first place. And He's going to be raising up His people to the top again in order for them to be the ones that the world is going to be looking towards and going to be cleaving to. They've been taking all of these different places, these ley lines, sacred sites, and applying them to their churches. But we know now that these sacred sites are ours. And our people were using them before, and they will use them again. Who was the people that destroyed Druidism? Who were the people that destroyed our people in order for them to be able to get their blessing? Right here. Druidism perished then by the edge of the sword wielded by the Romans. The Romans destroyed the Most High's chosen people, just like it talks about in the Book of Mormon, just like I said they would. They enslaved them. They killed them, enslaved them, put them in chains, and the rest of the world worshipped that church, worshipped the beast because of what they did to the Most High's chosen people. But now their time of rulership is coming to an end. And now the Most High is setting things right the way it was intended in the first place. All praise is to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.